Okay, guys, this is a an introductory video to how to play and beat the micro stakes no limit hold'em games, and I've got two tables on full tilt poker in front of me here. Two tables of $10 buy-in, so the blinds are 5 cents and 10 cents. I've not really got too much experience at these levels. I never really played them, but I'm going to advocate and adopt a very basic style of poker. Now, I'm doing a little mini series of how to beat these games, and I'm going to focus on. I've only got sort of 10-minute video slots really, so I'm just going to focus on specific topics each time. This particular session, I'm going to focus on playing tight. So we're going to look at the hands that I choose to play, and they're going to be a very tight selection of hands. I haven't really got any information on my opponent whatsoever. I've got a pair of fives. I've got a bit of showdown value. This is quite nitty, but this is a kind of board I think that hits a calling range fairly hard. It's quite a draw-heavy board, and you know, I'm just going to try and show my fives down. If he puts any money in the pot, I'll be done with it. I'm fairly certain I'm beat there. Had that flop have been what's known as a drier flop, let's say it came down king to 7, you know, I'd have just fired a C bet, a continuation bet, and looked to take it down. But there are so many hands that you're not getting to fold on that type of board. I mean, there's a flush already on the board, which didn't worry me too much, but I think it's more likely he's got a hand like 10 jack, or you know, queen 10, or you know, there's so many hands that you're just not getting to fold there, that sometimes I don't think there's any shame, especially at playing the low stakes $10 games. There's no shame in just trying to make, you know, the situations as easy for yourself as possible, really. And with a pair of fives, you know, you do have some showdown value, and you know, if you can just try and show the hand down in that situation, then that's not a terrible thing. And anyway, I'm going to be playing an exceptionally tight and very straightforward game, which will be plenty to beat these games. I think where a lot of people go wrong when they're starting out playing poker is they play too many hands. They play far too many hands, and they play too many hands out of position and against too many opponents. So we're going to concentrate on hand selection, our position at the table, and the aggression that we use to narrow down our field of opponents. So you're going to see me fold a lot, to be fair, which to some could be pretty boring, but you really need to ask yourself, you know, when you're playing these games, what your motivation is. And for some people, they play literally just for fun, and you know, their motivation is literally just having a bit of a laugh, and you know, playing some poker, they just like to gamble. And if that's the case, fine, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. But if your motivation is, you'll see me here, this is a rag ace. I mean, given the stack size of these two players, I don't know anything about them. I could squeeze, which is something I'll go into in later videos, but the last thing you want to do is squeeze with a bad ace. An ace flops, you fire out a bet, you get action from another opponent, and you know, I've got no kicker at all, and you just don't know where you are in the hand. And that's the situation that I find a lot of new players get themselves into trouble with, is they have a hand that's got an ace in it, and all of a sudden they think to themselves, well, I've got an ace, you know, and they'll start playing it, and especially playing it out of position, which means they're going to be first to act. And then if ace does hit, I mean, it's a hand that's got what's known as reverse implied odds. So if an ace flops, you fire out a bet. If your opponent hasn't got you beat, generally they're just done with the hand, and you win a small pot. So for the times that you are getting action, i.e. your opponent's calling you or raising you, you know, so often you're beat, and you know, you've got a top pair, and you're looking, you know, your hand thinking, I've got an ace, you know, I could be good, and you're just going to get yourself in all sorts of trouble. So all the trouble hands, fold. I'm literally just going to make the most basic, straightforward style of poker going. I mean, it's going to be really tight, really nitty, almost borderline boring. But as I said earlier, if your motivation is to start to make money now, and you actually think to yourself, no, I enjoy playing poker, I want to make money, I want to build a bankroll, I want to move up in limits, then at these stakes, you know, the guys are just, you know, but the biggest mistake a lot of your opponents are going to be making, which you're going to see a lot of, is them playing too many hands. They're going to play hands out of position, and they're going to play a lot of trouble hands. They're going to get themselves into tough spots, and you, as a tight player, you know, with okay, how much money is this? This guy's got $17. He's just limped in. Now King 8 isn't a particularly great hand, and ace jack we're going to raise as well. I think a lot of players on the button open a wider range of hands, so I'm actually raising for value as opposed to a bluff. But you could fold that. But I don't. When you're out of position, so I'm in the small blind. You know, the guy on the button's raised, and you tend to find a lot of players, you know, that have any idea how to play poker. They call less and raise less under the gun, so they have a smaller range, which means better quality of hand, and they open their hand range up, you know, wider when they're in the cutoff and on the button, so they've got a bigger selection of hands which they're happy to play, which isn't a mistake by any means, you know. And as you improve as a poker player, you too should start opening your hand range up somewhat. But in that situation, I see again a lot of players. A mistake that a lot of people make is if someone raises on the button, you've got ace jack. You know, a lot of people aren't going to fold it pre-flop, which is fine, but they'll flat call. And then again, if the ace hits, you know, it's again another reverse implied odds situation. You know, you're going to fire out a bet and take the pot down if you hit top pair, or if you get too much action, you know, there's a good chance that you'll probably beat. So, for me personally, if I'm in the small blind and it's just the big blind that's raised, I don't give them quite as much credit for having a good hand, and I would sooner raise, fold, and then call in that order in terms of how I would prefer to play the hand. Ace 10 offsuit. This is about as weak as I play, but I don't limp in. You'll notice I'd sooner raise. And what I'm doing is cutting down the field of opponents, which means that I'll have a better idea where I am in the hand, or I can win the pot right there and then, just take it down. So on this hand here we've got 7 jack. We do have a gut shot. Again, this is another situation that I see a lot of players get themselves. See, he's made a pot size bet, easy fold. Just throw it away. You know, just throw it away. Don't chase gut shot draws. You know, I see far too many, you know, well, friends of mine, amateur players, you know, think to themselves, well, you know, if I hit a queen, you know, I've probably got the best hand, and yeah, you probably do have the best hand, but more often than not, you're not going to hit your queen, and even when you do hit the queen, you're probably not going to get paid because there's such an obvious straight on the board. So you're calling against the odds to hit a hand that even when you do hit, you're not going to get paid. So don't chase draws and don't chase them against the odds. But that's something I'm going to cover in a later video. Basically, what drawing hands or hands with a good implied odds you can play, and in what position, and how you should play them. But for the most part, you know, you've got a gut shot, and you know the stack sizes aren't particularly big. You can see they've only got really half a buy-in. Just throw it away. Well, I'm going to wrap this video up because YouTube don't like me to have any more than 10 minutes. Not a bad hand to finish with. Pair of queens. Just going to unclick the auto post. These tables seem pretty tight. Everyone's just folding. King queen as well. I'm in the cutoff. There's no action before me, so I'm going to raise it up. You shouldn't really use the auto check buttons too often. See, now I've been re-raised. Now again, king queen is one of those hands that looks pretty pre-flop. You think, you know, yeah, I could hit a king or a queen, but it's another one of those situations. We're out of position. If we hit top pair, we're not going to know if we're good. And you know, I would sooner just fold king queen out of position and pick a better spot. You know, great, we threw away 30 cents rather than getting involved in a pot where we could lose our entire stack. It's very tight and straightforward style of poker. Will make you money at these stakes. I absolutely guarantee you it will. Okay, and we're done now.